Hi everyone, the topic of this video is going to be about articles. The main purpose of this video is to show you 4 examples of the beginning at least of 4 different articles about 4 different topics. And this is for the non-fiction task, paper 2, question 5. I want to make it really clear from the get-go that, and I said this in the previous video, but I just want to emphasize it again, that for this task you are not writing a factual newspaper article. This is not a report, but you are actually writing an opinion column, which means that your views are taking centre stage. So this exercise, question 5, is your place and your space to present and convey an opinion or a viewpoint to the reader/examiner. So I want to make that very clear. This is an opinion piece, very similar to a number of celebrities and a number of journalists actually, who get paid in mainstream media like newspapers and online websites and things to give an opinion. And there are a number of celebrities that I could give you now who get paid for this, get paid quite a lot of money, to write once a week a page of opinion in a newspaper in order to share with us their views. So this is what you're doing. The examiner wants to know what you think. So the articles that I'm going to show you are about 4 different topics, some of which have come up in the past in previous exam series and some of which I have made. We've got a topic about cycling, education, exams, travelling, and cooking education or food education in school. I want to make clear that even though all 4 of these tasks require you to write an article, you can notice that the place in which the article is being published is different. So we've got a broadsheet newspaper, we've got a website, web page, and a blog. For GCSE, I don't believe that there is much point in making a big deal about the differences between these. At the end of the day, an article is an article. Whatever you write is going to be able to be published in any of these places. So I would not myself get too distracted by where the article is being published, because the most important thing is that you write an article and you convey a viewpoint regardless of where it's going to be published. So these 4 tasks here are what the articles will be about. So the first article is about cyclists, actually, in London. This is written by a columnist called Melanie Phillips a few years ago, and this was published in a newspaper. You can see that we have a headline: arrogant, abusive, and oh so smug. Why do so many cyclists think that they are above the law? We've got a rhetorical question there. We've got some nice vocabulary, a colon. So already, like in my headline video, you're seeing some traits there, some devices already. So the article says, getting more people onto bikes in London seemed to be a good idea to me, encouraging exercise, reducing traffic congestion, and generally turning the city into a calmer, gentler, and more civilised place. How wrong can you be? Far from being calm, gentle, and civilised, many cyclists have proved to be the exact opposite. While this, of course, by no means applies to them all, large numbers of cyclists have brought a new level of aggression and menace to our city streets. As a pedestrian, I have encountered this on numerous occasions. A few weeks ago, at a major intersection, I started to cross the road when the green man flashed up at the lights. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something hurtling towards me and sprang backwards just in time. A cyclist had jumped the red light and almost knocked me down as he sped across the junction. Furious, I shouted after him, but to my astonishment, he stopped and, looking over his shoulder, shouted abuse at me for having dared to try and interrupt his progress. What possible justification would there be for abusing a pedestrian when he himself had put her in danger by breaking the law? In short, cyclists behave like kings of the road, like lords of the universe. So this is an article, but it's also an opinion column. It's about her view, about Melanie's view here. And she has used this collision, this near collision with a cyclist in London on a crossing, as a reason to really criticise cyclists and how she perceives them to be, as you can see in the headline, arrogant, abusive, and oh so smug. And as she says, while of course this does not apply to all cyclists, there is a degree of criticism here about their behaviour on the road, that they seem to break the law easily whereas drivers would face punishment from the law. She's got a rhetorical question in there. We've got some nice vocabulary. We've got list of 3 in there as well, a couple of times. And, generally she is conveying a sense of credibility in her writing because she's using this experience of this near miss as her inspiration. We also finish there with a couple of similes. So this is an example of what you need to write in the exam. This is clearly about an opinion. You need to convey it as well. Moving on to the second article, this is about school and education. And as the headline says, why is there an obsession with exams? So again, we've got a rhetorical question in the headline and also a colon. In recent years, the education system has become obsessed with exams. Whereas it is true that exams have a place in the education system, they should not have the only place, and it seems that this is the case. Creative coursework and project-based work have been scrapped in favour of a constant torrent of exams, which floods young people's lives with stress, anxiety and unhappiness. Is this ethical? And what purpose does this serve when coursework still exists in other parts of the education system? And then we've got a subheading, stress and anxiety. According to a recent survey, 87% of young people stated that exams and assessments made them feel anxious and stressed to the point that they lose their appetite and cannot sleep. As a result, exams are not just assessing students' knowledge, they are affecting people's mental health in a detrimental and unhelpful way. Students with dyslexia and other learning barriers also find exams difficult, and whereas it is true that exams access arrangements can be applied to help students, these arrangements do not do away with the exams. Whereas all exams cause stress and always have done, it is the sheer number of exams that is the issue. It is estimated that a typical 18-year-old will have sat 202 exams by the time they leave school, college or sixth form. Is this outrageously high number of exams necessary? Okay. So what is good about this? Again, it's clearly conveying an anti-exam opinion. We've got a subheading there to structure your writing and to signpost your writing. We've got stats, 87%, 202. They might be made up, but it doesn't matter in the context of this task. We have got rhetorical questions. We have got use of vocabulary like detrimental, unhelpful, outrageously. We have got list of 3 as well. So again, this is an opinion piece. It's not a report about exams or education. It's an opinion about that. So again, that fits the criteria for our article task. Another article here about travelling. This is very similar to a task that came up recently actually about travelling. The Great Escape, why is travelling so much more than getting a tan? Each year, £5.6 billion is spent on holidays and travelling, and whereas it is true that some desire a week sat baking like a jacket potato by a pool, travelling to far-flung parts of the world offers so much more than a tan and great photos for Instagram. This is now especially the case after several lockdowns and travel restrictions caused by the pandemic. Let's be honest here. You don't need to be a millionaire to go abroad nowadays, with some flights to Spain, Portugal and France costing as little as £150. Of course, you do not need to go abroad to enjoy a holiday. The pandemic created a huge surge in people opting for staycations, which boosted the UK's economy by 43%. It is important to relax and seek shelter from our busy lives, but apart from this, what else can travelling offer us? Subheading, experiencing new cultures. Undeniably, one of the main benefits of travelling is learning about other cultures. There are a wealth of places that tourists can visit while travelling, including museums, art galleries and shops. Even perusing the menu in a restaurant can familiarise you with the local cuisine. Guided tours also offer a fantastic opportunity to see places in a relatively short space of time. I travelled to Athens a few years ago and managed to see the main parts of the city in 3 hours. According to language experts, immersing yourself in a new culture will make it easier to learn a new language, which is always beneficial. As we've seen before, same kind of headline, rhetorical question and a colon. We have got lots of direct address in this one as well, directed to you, as if talking directly to the reader. We've got lots of stats in there, lots of logos, lots of being able to create logical sense through statistics, lots of numbers, for example. There's also in here quite a funny simile at the top there about baking like a jacket potato by the pool, which is quite humorous. They've also referenced the pandemic, which is something that could be quite useful to use because obviously the pandemic is quite unusual and made us live differently for a while. So that could be something to refer to in a task, perhaps. Rhetorical questions again. So again, also conveying an opinion. So this is the beginning, at least, of an article there about travelling and what travelling can offer us as a benefit. And finally, the last article here. This is about cooking in schools. This probably could be the whole article because there's a lot more written here. Why aren't schools teaching students how to cook anymore? I can remember it as if it were yesterday. It was October 2003 and I was in year 9 at school. I was beginning an 8-week cookery course. It turned out to be the only such course I did in my entire 13 years of education. Mrs. Thomas was my teacher, a friendly Welsh lady. In our first lesson we didn't cook anything at all and instead got bogged down with paperwork and writing our names on the front of exercise books, most of which remained empty anyway. What do you think we cooked the next week? The answer to that technically is nothing. To cook to me suggests you have to use heat. Instead of cooking a roast dinner, a curry or even a sweet pudding, we made a sandwich. That's right, a sandwich, something which we could all do anyway. No wonder hundreds of thousands of people under 30 cannot cook anything and rely on plastic packaged ready meals and a microwave. Is it surprising that 76% of people recently surveyed stated that they do not use their own oven at home? No wonder people are hooked on fast food junk and the country is facing the obesity crisis. Maybe teaching people how to make nutritious meals would have been a good start, instead of asking teenagers to make sandwiches. Just a thought. Like many families, it was the women in my family that did all the cooking. The house would smell of the most gorgeous culinary treats all the time, as my mother and grandmothers prepared meals. They had learned these skills during cookery classes at school, which was also known as home ec. Whereas, of course, I'm not suggesting women should do all the cooking, I am saying that those that usually do have some kind of skill in the kitchen. If you are churning out people with no dietary knowledge whatsoever, why are you so surprised about poor teeth, obese children, and a high intake of salt and sugar? Maybe one more paragraph would finish this, because this is quite decent in length already. This is quite successful, and you'll notice a similarity with the previous article about Athens. Here they start off by using their own experience to help create credibility or ethos. Their own past, their own memories inform their viewpoint, and that's what they start with, their own memories of year 9 at school. Again, lots of rhetorical questions, lots of logos in terms of facts and stats. It's also quite convincing in terms of the language and the tone. There's elements of where they're quite sarcastic here, perhaps, good use of punctuation. And lots of alliteration as well, plastic packaged and things. So there's also lots of nice vocabulary. So this, in summary then, is what you are aiming for with your article. It is not a factual article, like a news report. It is an opinion piece. And this is where the examiner wants to know what you think. Always important to include a headline, include good punctuation, and also use De Forest to help you manipulate your language and use techniques to convey your opinion. Okay, and ethos, logos, and pathos can also be useful. In a previous video for articles, which I'll put the link on the screen here, you'll be able to see those, what that means. Okay, so that is what articles are. 4 examples of 4 very different article tasks, all for paper 2, question 5, the non-fiction writing task. Thank you.